letting you know that at the onset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Venkatesh Vikram for joining us today and helping us throw some light on some important topics which can keep us and our families safe. So he's a renowned minimal access surgeon whose passion is surgery, and he's a strong proponent of thorough examination over unnecessary investigation. From what I know, he's an avid reader, he's a people person. So he's got over 15 years of overall experience with 9 years of it as a medical director and a P&L in charge.
Good evening to all the team members. Basically, first and foremost, I would like to thank your team for giving me an opportunity to talk to you guys, and with whatever little knowledge we have on COVID, I can share it with you guys. I'm open for questions. Right, Covishield is it is accepted across. So I would like to really look at countries which are not allowing Covishield. Covaxin, with respect to Covaxin, what has happened is they have still not got the trial 3 reports out.
Okay.
So after the trial 3 reports are out, only they will be allowed to travel abroad, because WHO approval is still pending. Whereas Covishield, it has been approved. It has been approved and approved by WHO. I don't think so. We don't have any inferior brand vaccine if you look at it.
Okay.
We just want to know the preventive measures instead of going to hospitals or pharmacies and getting the medicines. So is there any natural steps that we can follow that we can restrict COVID virus, doctor? So that's my exact question.
First and foremost, I would like to thank you for following all the COVID etiquettes. I'd say, first one is chloroquine. Second one is vitamin C, zinc, capsules. If you take, it'll prevent. But none of them say it will prevent. It is as a precautionary measure, right? The severity of the disease, what they say, will reduce. That's all. They never say that you will not contact COVID. So the severity is what they talk about. But in our practice and in our experience, with respect to data, what we have maintained in the hospital, we didn't see much benefit. So that's all I can say from my side.
Especially my parents and everyone, they are very, very cautious about it, and they kind of overuse sanitizers. So I'm not sure what is the side effects of those things, right?
No, not much of a side effect these days. Our sanitizers have, until unless they have something called as contact dermatitis or they are allergic to that product. Because most of the sanitizers, they have glycerol as a base, so that itself acts as a moisturizer. So not much of an effect.
Okay.
About masks, please. I really always had this query. What is the right way of using the mask, or can we really reuse N95 after washing?
Yeah, washing and probably ironing it would help. One, that is if it is your cloth mask. Second one, a simple 3-ply mask would be enough for you guys. Whereas healthcare workers who are in close contact with patients and positive patients, then you require N95 mask. But not everyone requires an N95 mask. Right? Whenever you are going into some shopping or something, I would suggest you guys to wear some sort of an eye protector also, because your eye also has a mucous membrane. So which the virus can adhere to, and it is also a portal of entry. So if you can cover your mouth, nose, and eyes, that should be enough.
What kind of problems that you are really seeing in kids due to this, long confinement within just 4 walls?
Parents are becoming mad. Yes, it is a psychologically. It psychologically impacts the children, and one of the outcomes of it is addiction to your smartphones or TV, etc. Kids who are avid readers, there are pros and there are also cons about it. The pros are, people start picking up good habits, with respect to playing indoor games, then reading, then drawing, all these things, they become, focused towards that side. Kids who are a little younger, that is probably 10 and below or 12 and below, it is very difficult to have them inside the house. Their social life is zero.
Right.
Apart from that, from morning to evening, they have to see their parents' face and they have to sit and listen to the class, which they are not, accustomed to. So, I'm yet to see people coming out with absolute problems, especially children.
Okay.
So, but it will prop up with respect to adjustment disorders and, with respect to when actually school starts, we'll see all these things coming up because it's been 2 years now, and they will not be able to adjust to the school environment and also their peers. So, we'll have to see and, the outcome of this 2 years.
When is it expected that, children, people below 18 years get their vaccination? What is the forecast?
I think by this month end, I think the trials with respect to 12 and above will publish the report. I think I can see that probably mid-August or end of the August, it'll be on for kids more than 12 years. But kids less than 12 years, it is still yet to be published. So we are waiting for those results.
So do you have any suggestion for flu vaccine for the kids? Like now it is getting suggested for the kids.
Again, mixed publication from all the pediatrician across, because it is a virus and the flu is also caused by virus. It'll be a sort of like a general sort of a effect, if at all, if you go for flu vaccine also. And you can go, you need not go. I mean, there is no evidence-based study which says, yes, flu vaccine is beneficial against COVID.
Do we really need to vaccinate? Because, why I'm asking, so who actually needs vaccine? The vaccine they are, putting because of they have less immunity, right? But so how to calculate immunity? Who is having really good immunity or who is not having? So why do we need vaccine? So why, government pushing everyone should, get vaccine? Is that because we are seeing a lot of news, spreading in social media like it is, no need to put vaccine. If you are healthy, no need to put. So something like that we are able to see, right? So can you just clarify why do we need vaccines?
Have you been vaccinated for tuberculosis?
No.
You are.
Oh,
the first vaccine as you receive, before you even probably, have your first feed, you are vaccinated. Correct? Have you been vaccinated for polio?
Yes, for polio, yes.
Okay, correct. You are vaccinated.
Yes.
Yeah, diphtheria?
Not sure,
yes.
But yes.
No, DPT. That is the vaccine which has been given. Then, have you taken hepatitis vaccine any time?
Not sure.
Not sure. Okay. Next question. You don't use road?
Using.
You are using, right?
Yeah.
So why I asked you all those questions is, people might develop tuberculosis, might not develop tuberculosis. People might develop smallpox, they need not develop smallpox. Because of some strategy, which saw a beneficial effect to the citizens of the country, there was something called as National Immunization Program which came up. And as parents, we stand in line and stand in queue for hours together for our kids to be vaccinated with respect to those 15 vaccines which go, right? Here, government is not telling you to take the vaccine. What it is suggesting to take the vaccine based on few studies which are told them saying that it is beneficial. And I would also stand by the government after seeing the outcomes of the second wave. Okay, second wave, out of about 1,800 odd patients who were admitted, about 150 to 180 patients were vaccinated, either the first dose or that completed the full vaccination. Their outcomes were much, much better compared to your percentage of patients who were non-vaccinated. Okay, number of death. It might be, them hitting the ICU beds and coming out of ICU. Then, the prolonged stay to recover. I mean, what I meant really by prolonged stay is their recovery time. And after recovering, there is something called as a long COVID. Long COVID is because of COVID, you have certain limitations in your after discharge, you have some symptoms which persist. So the recovery from that is also shortened. So the government is not telling you, I will compulsorily vaccinate you. What it is suggesting is, based on these evidences, it is better to get vaccinated. I told Kadambari also saying that, in the second wave, we gave up PPE. And out of the treating 200 and odd, only about 10 got infected. None of us got infected. And those 10 also recovered very fast. We didn't see anyone, going into ICU with high oxygen requirement or HFNC, what we call as high flow nasal oxygen, or NIV, that is non-invasive ventilation, right? So again, it is up to you whether you want to take the vaccine or no. But I will push for elderly people, okay, one, with or without comorbidity, they should come forward and take the vaccine. It is not going to do any harm to them. Why I asked you that, do you use road or no, is worldwide, if you take statistics, your death with respect to road traffic accident is more than your death due to corona. But still we use, right? Vaccination, okay, death due to vaccination when compared to the large event is very minimal. Even normal vaccination can give rise to that.
And if you have already contracted corona, is it necessary to get vaccinated then?
If you have contracted corona, first and foremost, let me tell you, we just did a small cohort study in our hospital. Okay, what we did is, we have about 3 hospitals under us, right? Let me take the statistics of other 2 hospitals also. So totally about, I think, 260 odd, healthcare workers turned positive, right? So we were curious. This is during the first wave. So we were curious to know, whether really these people have developed antibodies. Can we use their plasma as convalescent plasma for treatment of other COVID patients? So all these things we were looking at. So what we did, we said, we took approval from the management and we said, we will do an antibody test for these people. So out of 260 odd, take a wild guess, how many had antibodies after 3 weeks of corona? Just take a wild guess.
I'm not really sure.
About 20 people had antibodies which had developed against corona. Rest all, we didn't have antibodies.
That's a very less percentage.
Yes. So that's exactly what I'm telling is vaccination after getting infected is also very important. One. Second one, according to the CDC guidelines, it is after 14 days of your recovery that you should have negative RT-PCR report. 14 days later, you can have it. But as doctors, post-COVID, what we do is we do certain few blood tests, okay, depending on the blood test and how the patient has recovered physiologically, because they have to gain strength. They need to have sort of a little bit of immunity for their immune system to kick in, right? So we suggest anywhere between 1 month to 6 weeks. Within that, they can get vaccine.
Okay, about immunity building foods. So what really happens when you say, these are some things supposed to be had to develop your immunity, or is there really a logic behind, certain foods making sure that your immunity is increased? What exactly is, I'm honestly, that even though there are so many things on the net, I still have my genuine doubts about what do you mean by, say, when you've gained immunity, or even about autoimmune conditions, or you're immunocompromised. There are so many terms which is quite confusing. So can you please shed some light on it?
So I would re-question you on this. Okay, as your grandmother and your mother or father, no, grandmother, I would say, what would she ask you to eat?
Fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds. As much as possible, organic and without any.
Anything healthy.
Huh?
Anything healthy.
Yes.
Today, healthy is pizza also, right? About 25 years or 30 years back, there was no concept called refrigeration and we'll eat the same food next day. The food used to be prepared fresh, either for breakfast or lunch and dinner. All the 3-time women used to cook. The family used to have fresh food. One, right? So anything is which will build our immunity and which make us healthy would be fresh food, right? Nowadays, you're not sure about the quality of your vegetables or your and your fruits. So you need to be really careful and choosy when you're picking vegetables. So I would still put fresh fruit, one, then a lot of vegetables in your food, then fruits, pulses, and dry fruits. These are the foods which will help you. Along with that, if you eat this and if you sit, it is not going to help you, right? There was a study conducted which says, people who did about 20 to 25 minutes of moderate walking per day had better immunity compared to people of the same physiological condition who didn't do exercise. Basic or spot jogging or skipping, something, which keeps our endorphins high would definitely help us build immunity. Okay. And I would like to answer 2 important points which Kasturi raised. One is immunocompromised and autoimmune, right? Autoimmune is a disease, right? Autoimmune disease is your hereditary sort of a thing. So it is built in. It is not that you have acquired, right? So autoimmune disease is something like this. There are white blood cells in the body, which actually are supposed to attack your foreign, either virus or bacteria or something else, right? But here, what it does is it starts attacking our own normal, cells. So that is called as autoimmune. Second one is immunocompromised. Immunocompromised is what? You don't have autoimmune disease. You're normal. Okay. But either because of some disease you have acquired, you have been immunocompromised, or you have been given immunocompromised treatment, tablets or medicines to reduce your immunity. Okay. So in autoimmune disease, what happens is they give something to reduce your immunity so the immune cells don't destroy your normal cells. Okay. One autoimmunity can also lead to you will get treatment to reduce your immunity, which is called as immunocompromised. Then patients who are diabetic, who are on dialysis, then patients who have taken treatment for cancer therapy and other things, they are put on immunomodulator. So their immunity is also pretty low. So these people, immunocompromised and autoimmune disease, they have, because their immunity is very less, they contacting this coronavirus is very, very, very high. Out of 5,000 odd patients which we treated, about 2,000 odd patients were diabetic or hypertensive, right? So they contact corona very easily. So for them, vaccination becomes very important. So again, how do we look at reducing that immunocompromised level? I don't have answer with regard to that. With respect to diabetes, I can throw some light. You need to maintain your sugar level between around 120 to 170, have a regular exercise, take your regular medicines, do, diet control. All these things will help you to a certain extent to maintain your immunity. Otherwise, diabetics are really, they need to be very careful during this pandemic. They need to take extra precaution.
Is it necessary that you have to bring down your sugar levels to one particular level, only then go for vaccination, or can you do it at any stage?
You can do it at any stage, but it would be preferred for it to act ideally to have a control over your sugar. Again, high sugars is not good, right? So either she needs to get back to her treating physician or change her habits.
I have a follow-up
Tell me, Arun.
question regarding that immunocompromised patient. So my mother is stroke affected 5 years back, and she was paralyzed right side, doctor, and she
Okay.
was exposed to the COVID-19 infection around an year back, and after 50 days of hospitalization, she came out of COVID. So, is it required to give vaccination to her, because almost in 5 years she is taking all immunocompromising medications like aspirin, necosprin. As far as I read in web, all those will reduce her immune system. So, is it
See,
safe,
it-
doctor, or do you suggest any full body checkup before taking the vaccination, or any specific checkup she have to go through before vaccinating?
Arun, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you because you have your mom at home. Yeah. One. Second one is, if she is on immunomodulator drugs, she will need to get back to her physician to ask whether she needs to, with respect to her taking vaccine, I would recommend she takes a vaccine. Okay. Two things which you need to look at. One is they'll be on blood thinners. Okay. Certain category of blood thinners. I'm not looking at only aspirin. If she is only on aspirin, then there is no contraindication for her to take the vaccine. Only with respect to blood thinners which are higher than the aspirin tablet, she will need to consult her treating physician, and also let her take an opinion from her treating physician with respect to the drugs. Right? Why I'm telling that she can take the vaccine is, this is only a protein which has been injected. It is not a live, the virus itself which is injected. So you need not worry saying that after vaccination she will develop corona. She will not develop, because it is only a part of the viral protein which has been genetically modified and it has been given. Okay, so she will not get infected by corona. Whereas after the protein has been injected, okay, because that protein is the important protein in the coronavirus which initiates the immune response. So this protein, once it is injected, it initiates a temporary immune response in the body. So she will not get infected. She can get vaccinated.
Thank you.
People are getting vaccinated, and some people they are suffering from fever. Like for me, when I have taken the first dose, I have mild body ache. But when I have taken the second dose, I have fever for 2 days. So it is, somebody says, like, if you have any problem, that means antibody is getting created or vaccine is working in your body. So just wanted to know, it is a myth or it is a reality?
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First time when you see a pizza, what happens?
Yeah.
You're excited?
Yes, yes.
Your mouth is watering?
Yes.
I'm waiting for answer. Yes, your stomach is making sounds?
No.
Your stomach is not making, okay. So you are excited and your what do you call, your mouth is watering, right? So like that, first time when I give the vaccine, what happens is, you might develop what we call as mild symptoms, or you need not. It doesn't mean that the vaccine has not worked. But usually what happens is, okay, during the second dose, your body has already recognized this protein, and it is waiting for it to come inside the body. So you have something called as memory cells in your body, which are primed to recognize this protein. So as soon as you take this, now your immune system is fully ready. So what happens is, you tend to develop more symptoms during the second vaccination compared to the first vaccination. But again, second vaccination might be pain-free, right? Or any symptom-free. It doesn't mean saying that you have not developed immune response. Usually, immune response is measured by looking at the antibody level to the spike protein if you have taken Covishield or Covaxin. Okay. So after 4 weeks, you can get your spike protein antibody tested, which has become a norm now for all people. And you can look at the levels, and I'm sure it will be elevated and it will be of good quality.
Doctor, another query I'm having, this is regarding the aged people. So at present, I'm watching my parents, my in-laws. So aged people are facing challenges in staying home for longer time. So sometimes they become tensed when somebody is coming to our home, or sometimes they become very excited to go out and mix with other. So how to manage these people? Sometimes we are thinking we need to consult with a psychiatrist or counselor, or sometimes it's become very difficult for them to manage them. So any suggestion?
Absolutely, I agree with you, because I also have 4 elderly people, whom I have to look after. The challenge is, again, I mean, if they listen to you, well and good, that you can counsel them. But here I have 4 people, 2 of them, they listen to me. It's like Lakshman Rekha. If I put a line, they don't cross that. Whereas my own parents, if I put a line, I find them crossing about 100 times, so they don't listen to me. Now, how do you control them, or how do you counsel them? Yes, one would be, interacting with them on a day-to-day basis and minute to minute, hour to hour. You guys are all blessed because you're all working from home. Second one would be, yes, if you're looking at some sort of a indication saying that they're getting into some sort of a depression, right? You can, now online consultations are available. You can get in touch with a psychiatrist and ask them to counsel your parents. We will have to be very patient enough to listen to them and also to observe them and pick up signs as early as possible. And if needed, what you can do is you can put them across to a counselor so that a psychological counseling can happen.
Okay, doctor, this is a genuine question. There is a cousin's wedding next month, right? This was planned much before first, second, third waves and all. In fact, they've postponed it couple of months also. So it gets genuinely very difficult to say no. So is it say if we say all of us get ourselves tested before the event or something, you think it is safe enough to go? It's genuinely very tricky to say no to them on the face, or
Now I want to ask you whether you live your life emotionally or practically. If you are living your life practically, then I would recommend you not to attend the event. How they might, she might be your own sister, but it is a very tough decision to take. One. Second one, yes, let us assume that you take extra precaution and get everyone tested, and then you attend the wedding and you come back and you find after about 3 days about now I think 100 people are allowed within Karnataka, right? So let's assume that 10 people are being tested positive. How can that happen? You'll be asking me, right? Sir, I got all the tests done, but everyone were negative. Now when I come back, 10 people are tested positive. See, during the initial phase of incubation, that is first 5 to 6 days, your RT-PCR will give you a result as negative. So it is all fate. Assuming and presuming that your fate is good and that you are not getting infected, you can go and attend the wedding. Otherwise, I would suggest not to attend the wedding.
I see that a lot of offices and everything are reopening. You're saying that we need to really take so much precautions to even go to weddings. When we are going and gathering in offices, talking, meeting, what do you think at this point as a nation we should follow? Like whether we can reopen the offices, will that have any impact? What do we really know about the third wave? We are talking about a lot of variants also, penetrating into India right now. We really don't know what decisions to take when we think about should we open it up or we should get half the people to come to office, or it's quite uncertain when we try to take a decision. What would be your suggestion when it comes to, working out of office, when we are still not very sure of, what is the situation outside.
See, I think, with respect to office, of late I've been seeing a lot of requests coming to my hospital also saying that on-site vaccination, requests are coming up. So, and we are going and doing on-site vaccination also. So one thing would be vaccinate your people. One. Second one is how long will you prevent people from attending the offices? So you'll have to follow strict COVID etiquettes with respect to, apart from screening. I think the surface disinfection plays a very important role, especially in your offices. So that needs to be put in place. Then vaccination definitely is going to help, right? Whether to have a full strength or half strength, I would leave it to the individual organization. I would prefer, today in hospital we are all functioning full strength. All my 450 employees are there, so that is not an issue, right? But the challenge is now vaccination plays a major role in this one. Second one is, I think, once in a week you will have to educate your people, because after about 5 days your mind forgets everything, right? So once in 5 days or 6 days you will have to put them all in one room and make sure that you play a small video so that they are forced to see it and listen to that. I think by doing this, what happens is sort of immunity will build within your group, and I think opening the offices with half strength, I would recommend. I stopped watching TV August 2020. I stopped even reading WhatsApp messages 2020 August. With respect to Facebook, anything linked to Corona, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't read, except government initiative with respect to whatever the protocols are coming in, right? Because it is very depressing. So every day when we leave home, I spend a good amount of time with my family, saying them goodbye, because I don't know when we'll become positive, and we don't know the outcome, right? That's why I asked you, as a firm, if you want data, then India is a very wrong country to look at data, because we don't have data. We don't maintain proper data.
Right.
All the foreign countries look at India for data because we are rich. We have the population, and all the experiments are conducted here. But it is very sad to know that government of India, with respect to maintaining data, is very, very, very at infant level. It's at infancy stage that our data are not being maintained properly.
Okay.
I have a 1-year-old baby. So, can I get vaccinated or not? So I asked a few doctors, my pediatrician, they told you can wait. But this question I asked around 2 months before. So can I get vaccinated or not? Because my husband got vaccinated 3 weeks before, but he got high fever and all. Suppose if I get vaccinated and if I feed my daughter, will she also get fever?
First question would be, should I get vaccinated? I think you should get vaccinated. And will my daughter get fever? I don't think so, because it is an immune response for which you are getting a fever. It is not because that you have a virus or you have an infection, you are getting a virus. So this fever is non-transferable.
Okay, it is not.
Okay, this fever account is with Ragini only. It doesn't go to baby Ragini.
Okay, if nobody else has a question, I want to understand, doctor, how is it that other countries, population, so many in the US and Europe and all, people don't even wear masks nowadays. It's just only vaccination which has happened there. And people are, back to normal, literally back to normal. They're holidaying and things like that. So, I mean, how is it even justified? Or I really want to understand vaccination. Is it the end answer of it all? Or how do you calculate herd immunity and things like that?
Fantastic question. So I would like to take you to population of each country and their area-wise distribution. If I'll just give you a brief. Okay, I think in Italy, it is about 20 people per square kilometer. Sorry, square mile there, mile. Okay, in US, it is 34 people per square mile. In India, can you guess what is our density?
I don't know, sorry.
475. Okay, so if India had a density of 34, I'm sure Modi would be very proud and he would have said, you can walk around without masks. Correct? So now, with a dense population, people sitting next to each other and they don't have place, it is very difficult for, and also second thing is you don't have access to healthcare. This time we saw people literally searching for beds, and the whole of Bangalore ran out of beds, especially oxygen beds. We saw death happening while waiting for beds in ambulances outside the hospital. Right? So your infrastructure is not geared up, whereas they also are not geared up, but with that density they can manage. But with this density, you need to have within Bangalore, okay, you need to have about 450 bed, almost around 100 to 150 hospitals. Where is the infrastructure? It is not there, right? Herd immunity will develop, but it will develop slowly, but at a cost, because our density is more. China's density is, I think, around 300 plus per square mile. And they are not leaking out data. I cannot accept Wuhan said only this much death and this much spread, which I will not accept. If you look at the first case in India was two medicos who traveled from Wuhan to India, and that was the first reported case in India, Jan 2020. And a couple of days back, the first patient who had turned positive has turned positive again. So it doesn't mean that once I get corona second time I will not get. In our hospital, we have had people who were positive during the first time. They got vaccinated with both doses. In the second wave also, they turned positive. Look back now, 1.5 years. People who used to have sore throat, fever, then kitch in the throat, all these things have come down. If you guys notice, that is because of your mask. So your pollution is not affecting your upper respiratory tract now. So all the GPs, all the doctors whom used to go for this, next to your house are all sitting without patients now. So like that, I should say thanks to Corona, because it has brought down the number of cost also. Individual family used to spend on the treatment. So there are positives and there are negatives. Yeah, herd immunity will come only after about 60 to 70% of the people have been vaccinated.
So is it because of only masks, or also because we are not going out and we are not in pollution? Everything has contributed.
Everything has contributed, no? Right. I mean, the data was little shocking during the first wave. Mm-hmm. About first wave, we went into lockdown in Bangalore in Karnataka, basically from 24th March 2020. You will not believe if I tell you, whole of March, April, we didn't have a single patient coming into hospital because of a cardiac related issue, because everyone were happy at home. There was no stress. I mean, it was shocking. We thought that, the people might be dying at home. So even we contacted the local health authorities. They said no deaths have been reported, sir, because all the deaths have to be registered, right? So somewhere, I think, we should read a message saying that slow down, relax, and focus. I think with respect to mask, sanitization, and COVID, it is going to stay with us for a very long time, like H1N1. Okay, today also we get a small peaks of H1N1 every July. So we have to live with COVID. There is no escape, and there will be some sort of a mutation which will happen to the virus. And whenever it comes, we'll have to balance our life around it.
How was China able to handle it with the numbers that they are releasing?
The whole world wants to know. So they are looking for some agent who can, give them the data. So if you are interested, I can recommend. The challenge is data is not coming out, right? So I don't, that's exactly what I said. I don't believe
But
China data.
are they able to do it? Is that for real, or they are just masking information?
I think it is masking information. If they were transparent enough, we would have seen a devastating effect there, like in India. You guys read, Tamil Nadu ran out of oxygen, Karnataka ran out of oxygen. Okay, and Delhi, Maharashtra, everywhere there was severe shortage of oxygen, right? So on an average, okay, I used to have 250 COVID patients in the hospital who were, out of which about 130 to 140 were on oxygen. Can you just wildly guess the oxygen consumption in my hospital in liters, gaseous form? That will give you an idea why India ran out of oxygen. On an average during peak, okay, we were consuming around 33 lakhs of gaseous oxygen. That is 33 lakh liters of gaseous oxygen per day.
That's huge.
That was an eye opener for us. Huh?
Right. Do you think there is a chance of having a cure for corona?
What is going on in this area? I wouldn't say no to that. The challenge is how much we knew about COVID on day one. After 2 years also, our knowledge with respect to how it responds, it has not grown much, because every individual comes with a different response. That has become a challenge now. Okay, for one patient, if we give this medicine, he recovers. Next patient, similar patient, we give that medicine, he doesn't recover. Okay, so some come with symptoms, some don't come with symptoms. Some comes, they come to the hospital at the last moment. So we are not sure. So it has become like a titration sort of a thing. So as soon as some patient comes in, we put tuck, A, B, C, D drugs, and we see which one responds. We slowly remove one by one, and we see for which he is responding. So that's all we are doing. So knowledge-wise, not much of a, still I'm not very confident saying that if a corona patient comes that, he will become all right and walk out of my hospital. And we are also not very sure of all the medicines and other things, because I'll just give you an example. We saw very good results with respect to convalescent plasma in our hospital.
Okay.
But today, CDC has banned it. It said it is not a treatment of choice for COVID. But in my hospital, we still continue to give and we see results. So somewhere we will publish this paper. So once the paper is out, probably people might consider that. But as of now, our experience, though we are experienced of treating 5,000 odd patients, we are blank when it comes to corona, right? We blindly follow some treatment protocols and based on clinical recovery, what patient shows, we change our medicines. I mean, it is still a question mark in us.
Yeah, I have a question about this black fungus thing. So it almost like mimics the symptoms of having sinusitis. So with the monsoon kicking in, and there are so many people who always have the sinusitis and migraine headaches. They take tablets on a regular basis and things like that. So if you've contracted COVID, or if you've not contracted COVID, is there a chance to be affected? Or can you just explain some stuff about it?
Right now, when you're talking to me, it is somewhere within your house. Have you contacted it? No, right? Yeah. So basically, these sort of things are not gone out of our life. It is still there. It is basically because of immunocompromised status, all these, fungi and other things are growing. We were surprised to see the outbreak of mucormycosis, because during the first wave, the use of steroids and other things were very high compared to the second wave, right? But now, in the second wave, the use of steroid has been rationed, so that not everyone are put on steroids, and not at such high doses. So now it is coming out and showing itself as black fungus. It tells me something to do with the virus itself. The mutation in the virus, is it causing some sort of a what do you call, symbiotic sort of a relationship with the fungi, so that the virus and fungi, virus kicking in, the fungi has been fuel to grow. So we are also not very sure. I don't think so. It is just because of, corticosteroids or your breakdown of hemoglobin or your immune response. All these things have led to this. But yes, there has been a rise in the black fungus cases. And it is very sad because the surgery and the treatment is very, very devastating. Non-availability of medicine, then the disfigurement, what it causes. It's very difficult to describe.
So, hi, doctor. This is Kirtana. I have a question like,
Tell me, Kirtana.
yeah, in Andhra, they are coming up with some Ayurvedic medicines. So, does it really work?
Kirtana, I'm an allopathy doctor, so my knowledge with respect to Ayurvedic medicine is very dismal.
So when someone contracts COVID and he's admitted in your hospital, what are some of the things that you do apart from giving medications and giving them, enough oxygen?
Alternative is only psychological counseling if it, as and when required. We have something called as a video consultation platform. So in that, we make sure that the psychologist, have a word with that patient, particular patient one. Second one is there is also with respect to diet counseling we do, because they require a little high protein diet. Then apart from that, the physiotherapy team also gets in touch with them and they teach them with respect to just physiotherapy and a few exercises called using incentive spirometer. So all these things, apart from that, not much.
First of all, Doctor, very, very heartfelt thanks for all the work you've done so far, right? I'm thanking the whole medical community as well as you, right? I have heard good things about Sagar and your hospital. Is there now? I'm just getting into a point where this is a good case study for any anti-national. We have enough threats to the country and right to our progress, right? So, is there any think tank that is going on to avoid this kind of future attacks from a medical profession? You're a first-line defense when we say, right? Just like how we have the army and the cyber experts trying to stall attacks from external entities, right? You are a first-line defense from how to ensure that the resources are safe and healthy. So, is there any think tank going on within your medical community to avoid this in the future?
As of now, I don't think so. People are looking from that angle. I'm sure because China is not releasing much of a data. So I think over a period of next 1.5 years, a lot of research will get into that, and a lot of travel restrictions might also kick in with respect to carrying certain things, while commuting. So, but as of now, not much of a data is out. If the government is working secretly inside, then we'll have to, the time will tell us whether there is any protocols they are coming up with.
And then within the labs in India, are we having safeguards so that while researching about the vaccines, we don't induce?
Yes. It's all under, biosafety 4 measures. All the labs are functioning. Okay. There are something called as standards which lab has to maintain before they open any samples. So biosafety 4 and above is the requirement, minimum requirement.
Last question. This is an argument that we have quite often. When to drink after vaccination? Can I drink alcohol 1 week, 2 weeks?
Same day.
Same day. Thank you.
That's not fair. Not fair. You shouldn't have said that.
Anyway, thank you so much for answering all our questions with such patience, right? In between all your busy schedules, taking up time to answer our questions like this is not something simple to do.
From my side also to Teklan, you and Kasturi for organizing such a beautiful meeting, and thanks to all the participants. I'm assuming that I have answered most of your questions. If there is anything, I will leave my email ID with Kasturi. So if anyone wants to get in touch, yes, please, more welcome. Right? Thanks again. Thanks a lot.